Welcome back to video number 3, guys, for your network connectivity tips and tricks here. So, if you're with me thus far, I do appreciate that. I do apologize for the length of these videos. I didn't really prepare ahead of time, so that's kind of my bad, guys. But anyway, so moving on, we've determined that we've gone through the common fixes on our PC, or at least the most common fixes for any possible adapter and or driver issues. And we've already determined, we're familiar with our network topography. We determined what the issue was with the adapter. We fixed that. Now we think we maybe have a modem or a router issue. Now, it's very important that it's very important you know this rather. A lot of your connectivity issues are going to stem from either the connected device or the wireless router itself. In this particular case, it could be the router or the wireless gateway. So there's a few different things that we can do here. First and foremost, obviously, powering down all of the connected devices, then powering down the wireless router. If it doesn't have a power button, go ahead and unplug it. Same thing with the modem. Go ahead and unplug that. In that order, you want to go backwards with your network topology. And then when you turn everything back on, you want to go in the opposite order. So the last thing you're going to be turning on is your PC. You want to make sure that your modem is on. Again, if you do use a wireless gateway, think of that as your modem and router. So obviously turning that on, it's going to turn your wireless router on for you, so don't worry about that. But if you do use a modem, go ahead and make sure your modem's plugged in, power on, give it a minute to come on and fully get online there, and then turn your wireless router on, allow it to connect and come online, and then turn your PC on. If you are using a laptop, tablet, mobile device, whatever, don't worry about that. Same step still applies. So if you're using an Android and your Android can't connect to the internet, restart your Android. It's very simple, right? All right, so moving forward with that, if you have a wireless gateway, once again, you want to, if we're repeating all of these steps, turn your PC off and then turn off the wireless gateway just simply by pulling the power pin out of the back. If you want to as well, there is a reset button on the back of the wireless gateways. Now keep in mind that pressing the reset button and releasing, so a press and release, is actually just going to give it a soft reset. It's basically like a power cycle, and that's okay. It's the same type of signal that somebody from Comcast can send through Einstein or Grand Slam, depending on what software they're using. If you would like to, you can hold that in for 30 seconds to give the device a full factory reset. Keep in mind, when you do that, you will lose your default network information. You'll lose anything else in there as well, like port forwarding information if you've done that, which I'm not going to go into. But if you have done that, you'll lose all of that as well. So it's completely up to you. But if you're having a real big, tough time with the device, sometimes a factory reset is a nice little fix. So keep in mind, press and release, soft reset, press and hold 30 seconds, factory reset. All right, so we've done all that. We're still having connection issues, or our connectivity is slow. That's another really common issue with Comcast. I'm connected to your new wireless gateway, and I'm supposed to be getting 50 down and 10 up, and I'm only getting 22 and 5. What's the deal? Well, let's take a look at your wireless gateway. Now, for those of you that aren't using a wireless gateway, again, I'm not going to go into the instructions on how to connect to each router in particular. If you have a wireless router and you're connected with an Ethernet cable, or you're connected wirelessly to your own wireless router, generally speaking, 192.168.1.1 is going to be the address that you use to connect to that. Once again, that's 192.168.1.1. Follow that rhythm. It's very easy to get to. If you are using a wireless gateway, keep in mind that the wireless gateway, you're going to use the same method to connect to a wireless gateway as you would to a modem if you owned your own modem. So in this particular case, you would type in 10.0.0.1. Okay, now I don't have a wireless gateway. I have a DOCSIS 3 modem and my own wireless router. So we're not actually going to be able to connect to that. What I do have, and don't ask me how I got this again, is I actually have a little simulator here that I used at work. Again, don't ask me. I'm not going to give it to anybody. You can see the address if you really want to type it in, but I'm not going to be linking these resources for people to play around with it. So what we have is a number of menu options down the left side. Again, I'm not going to be going into how to connect to everybody's wireless router. I did want to mention this though. Routerpasswords.com, very useful tool for you guys that have a wireless router but don't know how to get into it. Once you type the 192.168.1.1, generally speaking, you'll have a user and password field pop up. If you have a, you know what, I'll just go through it because what the hey, right? Where is the Netgear? And then we'll find Netgear. What it's going to do is tell you the default username and password. Now, for a lot of them, it's going to be admin and password, so that would obviously be your most common choice. That's if you don't know your make and model. If you're pretty sure of your make and model, then just go right on through here and look that up. It's pretty easy to do. So we'll go ahead and close that. I have mine open here, but I kind of changed my mind. I'm not going to go through how to do this with a separate wireless router. The steps are quite similar as far as changing your wireless channel, your broadcast channel. That's what we're going to cover. But I'm going to do this for the wireless gateway, as I firmly believe that a lot of the problems, a lot of the speed issues and wireless connectivity issues that people are having, especially with Comcast, are going to come from their wireless gateways and not from your own wireless routers. As Comcast is, rolling these out more and more, those problems are becoming more and more prevalent. So, first thing we're going to do, guys, is come on down to our connection tab on the left-hand side under the gateway, and then you want to select the Wi-Fi option. Now, what that's going to do, and keep in mind this thing, it loads relatively slow. What that's going to do is that's going to show us our Wi-Fi network. Now, this is very important. We're looking for the network name. Once again, you can match this with the SSID on the bottom of the device itself, the wireless gateway. If you have your own, or if you've been into this control panel before and you've changed it, you're just looking for the network name under private Wi-Fi network. It's going to look very similar to this until they roll out new firmware. So it doesn't matter what model wireless gateway you have. If you have a wireless gateway from Comcast, this is what you're going to see. Not every wireless gateway, by the way, is 5 gigahertz compliant. Some of them are. It's not unlocked. Some of them do have the dual band. Doesn't really matter. What we're looking for is the one that you're connected to. In most cases, I recommend people just stick with the 2.4. Honestly, it works just fine for typical home use. So in this particular case, we're just going to pretend that the wireless gateway you have only has one frequency band. And the network name will just go with home-8A75. If you only have one, it's not even going to hyphen 2.4 or hyphen 5 it. It's just going to have the 8A75 and that's it. And we're looking for the edit button all the way to the right of that. Now, once again, slow loading on the simulator, so sorry about that. While this is loading, if you guys are interested, there are numerous websites where you can play around with different types of router software and internet applications, operating system environments such as Chasms, CHASMS.com. There's networkoverload.com and Zen Virtual Apps. You can look all three of those up. Very useful. So if you don't have a Mac but you would like to play around with a Mac, or see how to maybe change DNS settings on a Mac or something like that, you can get in there and play around with that. It's not the same as installing a virtual machine and actually getting the operating system, because you're very limited as to what you can do. It's basically a series of images or like a flash object, something like that. But it is very helpful for educational purposes. So in this particular case, what we want to do is make sure that our network name, if we're under our wireless network here, we're going to edit this. We don't want to do anything too fancy with this. As a rule of thumb, this has nothing to do with connectivity, but you don't want to have something in here that's personally identifiable. That way, if you do tick somebody off, you don't want them to maliciously attack you because they can see, hey, that's their network, I know who they are. I think every neighborhood has about 15 FBI vans, network names. The generic name that Comcast gives you is just fine. I recommend sticking with that. Reason for that is it doesn't have your name in it. It doesn't have your address, your phone number, anything like that. It's not silly, it's not personally identifiable, and it's not inappropriate. It's perfect. On the mode, again, most of this default stuff is going to be just fine for you. Now, the security mode. This is where it gets a little bit tricky. I'm not going to go into too many details here, or too much detail as to exactly why you want the mixed mode security. Just know that some devices like Samsung smart TVs, Vizio smart TVs, let's just say smart TVs in general, some stereo systems, older Nintendo Wiis, things like that, are going to require you to tweak this setting. But most devices today, most current devices, will run just fine with the mixed mode security. If you're having an issue connecting to it, let's say you're connecting to the network but unable to reach the internet, that's potentially pointing to an issue with the security mode. I don't want to say I'll come back to this later. I'm not 100% sure that I will. But the TKIP/AES, some devices will only run on TKIP. Some will only run on AES or the enterprise. It's just completely. Let me see if I can get this to pull up here. It's completely device dependent. Comcast will assist you in changing that. But again, that's going to be a third-party individual, and depending on whether or not, if you are in this portion of the video and you have the wireless gateway, they will support it. They will assist you. That being said, you can see some of the different security modes. These are actually not all of the security modes that these devices support. There's WPA, WPA2, and then there's the variants of each. So there's the WPA2, and then obviously the mixed mode, which is the recommended. Some iDevices as well will require a certain setting as well as a certain channel setting in order to keep a stable connection, like your iPhones, your iPads, your MacBook Pros, stuff like that. I call all of those iDevices. So that being said, leave that on mixed mode unless otherwise told to change that. If your manufacturer tells you what to change that to, then go ahead and come in here and change that. In other words, the rule of thumb is to find a setting that all devices can connect to. I'm going to pull this up one more time just so you guys can see this. WEP, if this would open up. I'm not sure why that's not opening up now. WEP is not recommended, and open is not recommended. WEP would be like a last resort. It might as well be open. WEP is just going to tick somebody off, and it's just going to piss them off because they can't access your network for about the 15 seconds it takes to crack it. Coming on down to channel selection, this is another big one. Actually, let's just back up for 2 seconds here. I know I didn't go into too much detail with the security mode, and I do apologize for that. The one thing that I hope I did instill in you, though, is to contact the manufacturer of the device for the exact security mode that you need. Otherwise, leave it in mixed mode. You want to keep it as secure as possible. WPA2 preferred, whether it's mixed or not. WPA after that. If you got to go to WEP, honestly, I'd probably ditch the device that requires WEP. I don't even think there's many devices that we've had to connect with WEP. Maybe, just maybe, a wireless security camera. Which kind of, it's ironic, ain't it? Anyway, so moving on, channel selection. This is where it gets a little bit tricky too. Recommended settings are automatic, but not for every device. So, and you're not going to find a resource that tells you this, unfortunately. But the TG862G model from Aris, completely, and just it blows my mind how much better it runs on automatic. That's the only one though. Now, if you cannot run an automatic, if you're having an issue, if it's not properly selecting the channel, keep in mind, typically you will not be able to change this channel setting or your channel setting. If you can change it, will not matter if it's currently set to automatic. If you do have an Aris model, once again, TG862G wireless gateway, you want to leave this on automatic if at all possible. If you have the DPC3939 from Cisco or the TC8305C from Technicolor, you want to change this to manual. Now, once you do that, especially on 2.4, I do not have the channel information available for the 5 gigahertz band for you off the top of my head, but on the 2.4, your recommended channels are actually 1, 6, and 11. It's very easy to remember. Top, middle, bottom. That's all you got to remember. I would go in reverse order, to be completely honest with you, high to low, so 11, 6, 1. If you're having a connection issue, or if you're dropping, or you feel the range is suffering, or the speed is suffering, switch it to channel 11. Now you can go through there and you can play around with it. I mean, I've tested all the different channels. Typically, I get the highest of speeds on 11 connected wirelessly, and I get the best range and lowest interference. The reason 1, 6, and 11 work is because they have less overlap from other channels from other devices around the surrounding area. So if you have, if you live in a metropolitan area with a lot of wireless devices operating at the same time, and even though they're all on automatic, there's going to be a lot of overlapping signals there, and they're bouncing around, causing interference, which is either going to A, cause your speeds to drop, or B, cause you to drop completely. So setting that to channel 11 will allow you to remain a little bit more isolated than usual, hopefully giving you the best throughput and signal quality. So as far as your network password, by default, once again, that is the 16-digit key on the bottom of the device. Keep in mind, you Comcast guys with wireless gateways, it will not have the letter O. Anything that appears to be the letter O will actually be the number 0, so you don't have to worry about the confusion on that. Do keep in mind, though, that the B's and 8's can both appear and they look similar, so something to look out for. There is no letter O's, that's all you got to remember, and then B's and 8's can actually look similar. It's not really a rule, it's one of my own, but you can change this if you like. Just make sure that when you do that, you change it in all of your other devices. If you need to get in there and change your wireless password for any reason, if you feel somebody's connected to it, let's say we've just changed it, I wouldn't go too long. The reason I say that is some devices will not accept a very lengthy password. Make sure you don't use any special characters. Think of it this way. Some devices, such as wireless printers, cannot input special characters. It's alphanumeric only. Some televisions will not support a password greater than 12 characters. You'll be able to type it in, but it actually will not connect. That's something to keep in mind as well. And this is, again, something that's industry inside. They don't, unfortunately, have a tip for that. As far as your broadcasting name, you always want to have that broadcasting. You'll get a little warning possibly popping up, but you don't want to use WPS anyway. I'm glad that actually popped up. Never use WPS on your device. It's just terrible. The security, it's a different security mode. It's terrible. You don't even want to use it. It fails to connect half the time anyway. It's one of the most, honestly, it's one of the most fail innovations in connectivity that I've, probably ever seen. So go ahead and leave that on. And the reason I say that is you're probably thinking that that's going to provide some extra layer of security for you, when in reality it's not. It's just going to make it harder for you to find your own network. If somebody is sniffing around for networks to connect to illegally, to get free internet or, Wi-Fi jack you, then they're going to find it regardless because the packets are still traveling. So it really doesn't matter. They'll still be able to find your network. Go ahead and make it easier for you to connect and just have that broadcasting at all time. Once you do that, go ahead and save your settings. Keep in mind, if you changed anything in here, anything significant like your security mode, your password, you're going to have to reconnect. So you'll reconnect to your network as normal. Now, if you did change your password, you'll have to go through the extra step, generally speaking, of changing it on your system or the stored password location on whatever device you were, connecting with. So if you were connecting with a Windows machine, let's say Windows 7, what you would want to do is delete your network. So you can open your I don't have it here, but if you open your network and sharing center, you would have the wireless network settings. Go ahead and click that. It's actually fairly simple, but you would just basically want to delete the stored network. Excuse me, taking a drink here. So once you do that, you'll be able to reconnect again. It'll ask you for the password as usual. Some devices will prompt you for a new password, some won't. I've seen it with Androids and iPhones where they say, hey, it's not the right password. Some will continue to act like they're connected and then just fail to reach the internet. So, and that pretty much covers it for the wireless connectivity. If you do have a unique case where you have a smartphone, or not a smartphone, well, maybe like an iPhone, I guess, could sometimes trigger the need for a different security mode. Or if you have a Wii or a smart TV or something like that, and I didn't really cover the fix, or what we covered really didn't help you, you can go ahead and post your questions there, surely. One of the things I will tell you is that you have under your, let's go ahead and wait for this to open up here. Under your advanced section here, keep in mind at this point we've already saved our settings, and we've already reconnected. A lot of times what people need to do is port forward for your connected devices. Like if you want to play Xbox games and you're unable to host, or you're unable to connect to a party, you want to port forward. The option to port forward is here. You don't need to do it though. By default, you have, let me see if I can remember exactly where this was located. The UPnP, Universal Plug and Play, should be opening and closing ports for you. Now, in order for that to work effectively, you'll need to set yourself a static IP address, which is actually rather simple to do. Comcast will not help you do it, though. They'll send you, again, to third party. Now, by default, it is enabled on the wireless gateway, so you'll set your UPnP to enabled, and then save, and then you'll be good. Port forwarding, obviously I'm not going to go into the instructions on how to do that, as I feel like UPnP kind of covers that. What we're going to do though is, real quickly, we're going to come back up here. This time we're going to click on connected devices. This is very important. If you're still having an issue after doing all of this, we've changed our wireless security settings to match the manufacturer requirement. We've changed our broadcasting channel to make sure that we have no interference, and we're still not able to connect. At this point, if I were a magician, I'd say, is this your card? And there's very few left that it could possibly be. You're either connecting a game console, some obscure wireless music player, a smart TV, something like that. What we're going to attempt to do here is give ourselves a static IP, or reserve our IP address, so that anytime that particular device connects to our network, it always gets the same IP address, so the traffic knows exactly where it's being pointed to. What we want to do though is make sure the device is connected and online. Now it doesn't need to reach the internet. It's just very important that, let's say we want to port forward for an Xbox. Instead of port forwarding, just make sure UPnP works. And by doing this, we're going to guarantee that UPnP works. Well, I guess I shouldn't say guarantee, but in my experience. So let's just say, for the sake of argument, that this is my home computer, even though this is a simulator. We're going to go ahead and click on this. By default, these are automatically assigned local IP addresses. So I come on one day and my computer is 10.0.0.6. I turn my computer off for a week and I connect and disconnect several other devices. When I come back on, it might be 10.0.0.13 because something else has been assigned 10.0.0.6. Now, the reason for this is it's not going to hold that IP address forever. So when you use UPnP, I find that it works most efficiently when it's able to locate that device 100% of the time. Now, I used this to fix the hosting issues on both PC and console games. So if your NAT type was strict, this is especially true if you have the NAT issues. Let's say you're playing Call of Duty on PC or on an Xbox and it says NAT type limited or strict or something like that. This is another way to do it. So what you want to do is drop your configuration down to reserved. Typically on this simulator it does not do this. Your MAC address will autofill and your reserved IP address will autofill as well. It should do that for you. And then go ahead and all you got to do, if you want, you can put in here like my PC. Go ahead and do that, and then click Save. Once you go back to your connected devices list, actually you don't even need to do that really. At that point, let's say we just did this for an Xbox. I would go ahead and restart the Xbox, and if you'd like to restart the router, Once they come back online, go ahead and boot it up and see if you can't connect to that party, or see if your NAT type is repaired. 9 times out of 10 it's going to be at that point. So hopefully here in video number 3 we've kind of fixed a lot of the issues up that people would still be having, especially with your more obscure devices. And I will see you guys on in video number 4.